Hi, Stephanie Abrams here, dashing through the airport. I'm going on an adventure. I've got my backpack, I've got my laptop, I've got my traveling shoes on. Come along with me. I am so happy you're with us. You know, we didn't start all that long ago, and you may have missed a show or two, so you're going to need to go and check out where you can see the follow-ups to all the broadcasts we've been doing and taking you wonderful places, and also spending some time here in our both radio and TV broadcast studio. So welcome. I'm glad you're with me. I hope you're comfortable. Settle in. There's so much we need to talk about today. And I really wanted to start talking about something interesting that happened this week to me, and the result of which we're going to be able to include in upcoming shows sooner rather than later. I had the opportunity to meet two people I'd never met face to face before. One is Daniel Hostetler. He is the president of Relais and Chateau Properties for North America. And I knew he was going to be here in the beautiful Berkshire Mountains of Western Massachusetts, where we broadcast from and where we live. I hope you come and visit us. It's gorgeous here. And it's a 12-month-a-year place. So far too many people think we are a kind of seasonal spring through foliage. No. And if you're into winter sports, this is the place to be. I'm not a winter sport person, but it's gorgeous here in the winter. And there are so many cheery fireplaces welcoming you when you go to a hotel or a restaurant that you really need to check us out. It's the perfect place to find yourself again. And in this crazy century that we're in, finding yourself may be not such an easy thing. And that's one of the reasons you need to know more about traveling, because there's no better way to connect with yourself, your real self, than to be somewhere where the dust settles and you can find you again. So I found out that Daniel Hostetler was coming out to a place called Blantyre. And Blantyre is a Cinderella castle style wonderful hotel. It's on about 100 acres. And when she turned 30 years old for her birthday, Jane and Jack Fitzpatrick gave their daughter Anne Fitzpatrick, later Anne Fitzpatrick Brown, Blantyre as a birthday present. And my remark to that has always been, are they adopting? What a lovely thing. And they bought the property for somewhere around $250,000 at the time. And then they had to put massive infusions of funding in because the place had been allowed to deteriorate. Much like many castle hotels in Europe. I happen to be thinking about Blantyre today for actually three reasons. One was Daniel Hostetler. Two was I was coming to the studio and I needed to bring along some extra things. And I always save shopping bags that remind me of something pleasant and happy, often just shopping somewhere. And they make nice little sacks that you can grab when you want to go someplace. On that subject, just so you know about it, if you're shopping in a duty-free shop anywhere in the world, get a bigger bag than you really need for whatever you've bought. Ask them for it. And either put it in the bag you're carrying or put the things you've just bought into the bigger bag. When you get wherever you're going and you get home and you put the things away or you give them away as gifts, keep those shopping bags and put them in your carry-on luggage when you are traveling internationally, because if you're ever in a place that only allows you one or two carry-on and you have more, take whatever is more and put it in the duty-free sack. They usually won't bother you because they don't like to discourage people from buying duty-free. So they let you carry it because they think you just bought it, or you just bought it in the last airport you were in. So that's just a little tip along the way. So I went in the closet and I'm looking for something to put the extra items I needed to bring to the studio today. And this is what I pulled out. Isn't that gorgeous? That's Blantyre. That's their shopping sack that you get when you buy something there. And I have on more than one occasion been at Blantyre where the things in their curio cabinet, I mean, it's not like they have a gift shop. And maybe they will at some point, but they don't now. But they have a curio cabinet, and there are just darling, wonderful things in there. And so, voila, my shopping sack. So when I heard Daniel Hostetler, the new president of Relais and Chateau Properties in North America, and if you're not familiar with Relais and Chateau, you need to be. These are fairy tale places, and certainly Blantyre is one of them, fits in that category. And regrettably, we lost Anne. I'm going to say it's 2 years now. Maybe it's 3 already, but I think it's 2 years ago, January, we lost Anne. And new owners have come in, and they're doing all kinds of fancy footwork. But I have to tell you, it's one of those situations where I look at a place and say, I don't know what you need to do here. So, but whenever there's a new owner, there's always a new vision. And so we know it will be in keeping with the Relais and Chateau brand. And the very first Relais and Chateau property, which is not a group you just call up and say, I'd like to be a member, let me write a check. No, 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 no. The criteria, the standard, the bar, very high. So that was the very first Relais and Chateau property in North America, Blantyre in Lenox, Massachusetts. And so I asked them, I have Relais and Chateau, I guess I should call them catalogs, really. You certainly couldn't refer to it as a brochure. It's much too big and fat. But I have them going back to the 1980s, 90s, 2000s, early first decade in 2000. And the last book I have from Relais and Chateau is from 2014. I was a guest at Blantyre, and you'll see it says, please take this most special guide with you, Blantyre. This is from 2014. And so you'd have inside the book a listing for each of the hotels. And there are some restaurants that are Relais and Chateau restaurants where there are no lodgings associated with it. The one that comes to mind first, and I'd have to check because every year there is a process as to if the places are meeting the standards that are required, if ownership has changed and maybe the philosophy and mentality has changed. They may not appear at some future time, but most of the core of Relais and Chateau properties, once they're in this elite group of very fine hospitality venues, they'll be there forever. And so this is my book from 2014, and you can see the width of that book. So when I made contact with Daniel Hostetler, and I said, let's see if we can meet while you were here in Berkshire County, and I ran over to Lenox, to Blantyre, to meet him, they had a little present for me, and it was a little white sack. Not as glorious as the Blantyre sack, I have to say, but just a nice little white sack. And in the sack, there was some material and the 2018 Relais and Chateau book. You need to work out at the gym to lift this. Look how they have grown since the 2014 book. Is that not remarkable? I mean, there have been some very industrious people beating the bushes to find the kind of spectacular places that, I can open to just about any place. Every place is a place you're going to look at and say, oh, I want to go there. I want to stay there. I want to dine there. And you can always count on the food being amazing. Super, over the top, incredible. And so in the not too distant future, we will have an opportunity for you to meet Daniel Hostetler. And I think now that Blantyre is in transition with its new ownership, Daniel's been coming out weekly to Blantyre to see that everything is on track, because at the moment they are doing some, from my point of view, probably completely unnecessary refurbishment. But they're making some changes as well, and I want you to watch for that, because that's a kind of a neat thing that's coming up and happening and you should know about. We're in our studio today, and there are people that I think about that I would love to be here, but they're not. And these are people that I have met along the way in my travels and can't be here snugged away with us in the beautiful Berkshire Mountains of Western Massachusetts, because their lives take them elsewhere. So I'm going to share with you two of those people. In my travels, I've been trying my best to remind you that I have written a wonderful novel. It's called Rumors, and everybody who reads it loves it. And I hear consistently, what a page turner, couldn't put it down, full of twists and turns, never saw the ending coming, when's the next one coming out? So I get very positive reviews. I want you to know, between us kids, because we're good friends, it's an uphill struggle to get a book attention when so many people look at it as, especially people who know you, how good could the book be, I know you're skilled in this, but what makes you think you're an author? Or a novelist, for that matter. And then there are people that look at it as, a first novel. How good could that be? Write a few. Maybe you'll gather some skills. I want you to know, invest your time in reading Rumors, and you're going to thank me for it, because it's going to whisk you away in a way that no other book has done recently, and that's from the feedback that I've been getting. So a few years back, when Rumors first came out, I was invited to speak at the main fiction stage at the Harlem Book Fair. And I was invited to speak because someone I know read the book and gave it to her cousin, Max Rodriguez, who is the founder of the Harlem Book Fair, and said, Max, you have to read this book. Now, I'm not convinced that Max and his busy schedule allowed him to read the book, but he gave it to one of his reviewers, and she wrote a spectacular review. And as a matter of fact, if you go to Amazon.com, the easiest way to get there is sabrams.com/rumors. Take you right over to my Amazon page. So you'll find a review that she wrote, and it is such an intelligent, intellectual, beautiful. If I had paid her, she couldn't have done a better job. And I wish I could meet this woman. I have no idea who she is. The review was written. I was invited to the Harlem Book Fair. And at the Harlem Book Fair, I met the moderator of the main fiction stage. And it was a very special visit to New York City and to Harlem. And he actually made a comment to me about where did I think I could, write authentically about African American people who play a key role in a good portion of Rumors. And I said, well, clearly you haven't read my book. And about a year later, he actually read the book, wrote a fabulous review, which you'll also find. And his name is Bob McNeil, and he's become a great friend. He recently, in honor of Black History Month, read, and he's a very dramatic, wonderful person who has a great appreciation for the value and power of words. He read a Langston Hughes poem in honor of Langston Hughes' birthday and also in honor of Black History Month. And I'd like to share that with you as one of the people I've met along the way that I want to share with you from my travels. So here's Bob McNeil.
I've known rivers, ancient as the world, and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient dusty rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. Thank you.
Stay tuned. Don't leave me. Stephanie Abrams.
Ain't no mountain high enough. Let's go up to that mountaintop.
So often we are consumed when we're traveling with where are we going, what are we going to see, what are we going to do, where are we going to stay, shopping, beaches, mountains, theater, whatever. And we lose sight of the people that we just might connect with and meet along the way. And, you know, it reminds me, a few years ago, I was talking with a group of people and we were just chatting about this and that. And a woman sitting in the group said to me, "You know, Stephanie, you have the most interesting collection of," and my brain finished the sentence with Limoges, teapots, pictures of dogs. It never occurred to me that she would finish that sentence, "Stephanie, you have the most interesting collection of," with the word people. And, you know, I think about that from time to time, even in preparing to share this time that we have together weekly. Because the people that I meet in my travels are by far so much more important and make a much bigger impression than all the monuments in the world, that many of which you see in that animated fly-through at the beginning of each program. Yeah, they're wonderful, but they can't compare to knowing and not just having met kind of peripherally, but really met and gotten to know and regard people as members of my inner circle, the ones that live in my shoebox. I live in a shoebox. Put the lid over it and only let in what I want. And your travels should be that way as well. They need to be planned that way so that when you come home, you don't have this feeling, oh, we didn't get to do this and we didn't get to do that, you know. So I invented a term. So when you hear other people using it, you know it started here, like the term castle hopping. It's another term I invented that now, you go Google castle hopping, you'll see there are all kinds of big names in travel and travel guides that have glommed onto that term, but it's okay. They're welcome to share it. But I invented a term, intentional travel. And intentional travel means that you know what you want from a trip before you go. That way, when you come home, you'll come home feeling you got out of the trip what you wanted. It bothers me when I hear people tell me, especially, you know, it's one thing if it's a business traveler and you went to get the contract and you didn't get it signed. That's a whole other story for a different day. And there are ways to help you modify that, but we'll save that for another show. But when you're traveling for that exciting or relaxing or kind of your own secret mission to find that happy place and just zone in there for a while so that you can find peace and balance and center yourself in a world that's merry-go-round keeps speeding up. So if you know what you want before you go, the chances are better you will achieve that rather than just going, seeing what's going on, partaking of what's there and coming home. And let me turn the tables on that a little bit because I want to get back to how that relates to people. There are two ways to look at going to a concert of your favorite performer. One is that you happen to fly somewhere, and or drive, if you're in the States, or maybe you go some longer distance, and when you get there, you find out Bruce Springsteen is performing, and you love his concerts. And so you try to get tickets, and it's either sold out or pretty much sold out, and you wind up with the most expensive tickets through some scalper where you get the worst seats. And then you have trouble getting a hotel that's nearby, so you wind up staying an hour or two outside of the area where the performance is taking place. And maybe you get to see it, and maybe you get disappointed. What if we turned it around? What if you planned your trip by first going and finding the tour schedule, which is easy to do with all the technology available to us, of your favorite performer, band, group, whoever, and you find out that they're performing in London on a certain date? Doesn't it feel so much more decadently delicious to decide we're going to London because so-and-so is performing on this date? And so now you build your whole trip around that performance, rather than go to London, find out the person's performing, hope that the concierge has an in to get you tickets somewhere. Or, as what happened with me when I wanted to take my son to see Miss Saigon while we were in London before it ever went to Broadway. And the advice I got from the concierge was, it's sold out. You're not getting tickets through any normal means. Take your son, go to the steps of the theater, and there will be scalpers selling tickets. And so I bought 2 tickets, £109 sterling apiece, and we were in the next to the last row at the very top of the biggest theater in London. And the tickets were like £43, but I paid £109 apiece. So you don't want to do that. Do it the other way around. And it also feels different. You are empowered, as opposed to, one way you're able to select and the other way you have to settle. So either way, you might wind up at the concert. It's just different. And I know you understand what I'm saying. It's just different. So one of the things that happens in your travels, especially if you're in countries where either you speak the language of the people, they speak the language you speak, or you've made a serious effort to draw pictures, do charades, learn some language before you go so that you can communicate on a better scale. And in the process of doing that, you're going to meet people who are warm, hospitable, kind, friendly, and will go out of their way for you. I can remember being on a corner in Vienna, Austria. We got to the point that if we had to look at the map to see which street do we cross, where do we make the right or left turn, how do we get from, we were just walking, this wasn't even in the car. Because Vienna, like most cities, you don't need a car. You're better off without one. You don't need the traffic and the hassle of finding parking. But it got to the point that if we wanted to look at the map to see, well, where are we and where's the next place we want to walk to, we would have to go and hide somewhere in a corner. We looked like we were doing a drug deal just to be out of the way, because if you stood on the corner and you opened your map, 6 Austrians would come over to try to help you. And I mean, it was lovely. It was wonderful. They were friendly. They were grand. But sometimes you just want to look at the map. You don't need help. It's okay. But those are the moments where you've got the intersection where people make a difference in your travels. And we're going to take a break and come back. And I want to introduce you by video to somebody that I met now a little over 2 years ago, who is amazing. So come back. Don't leave me.
Stay with me. We'll be right back.
I have to tell you, meeting people. Firstly, among the wonderful people that I've had the opportunity to meet in my travels, some of whom are now gone, and it gives you just one more reason why you need to travel, because I'm sure you've noticed life is fragile. You don't have a lock on tomorrow. You barely have a lock on a minute from now. What you know you have is right now. So if travel is important to you, find the reasons why you can, not the reasons why you can't. And I want you to know that I travel all over the world. And in my early travels, it wasn't important to me where we stayed. It was important that we could afford to pay for it. And so, as long as there was a clean bed and a comfortable bed and a shower and bathroom that was clean, I didn't need much more than that. You will find as you travel through your own personal life, you probably will get a bit spoiled, and your wants, needs, requirements will change, and that's out there and available to you. And you should know that you can travel like the king. You may not be able to do it every night of your trip, but in future conversations, I will show you and walk you through how you can stay at some of the finest places in the world. It's not that difficult to do, even on a modest budget. And I travel to some of the most expensive, luxurious, wonderful places in the world. The first that comes to mind is Monte Carlo. And yet, walking next to me in the same museums that are part of the Prince's antique cars and aquarium and postage stamp museum and the art museum and all these other wonderful places that are in Monte Carlo, the person next to me may not be staying in the same hotel I'm at, may not be eating in the same restaurants I'm eating at, but they certainly are in the same destination, enjoying the beauty, the history, the camaraderie, the whatever is going on. And they may be carrying a backpack, and maybe they're sleeping at a student hostel, or many universities have dormitory rooms that if it's a holiday period or summer, you can stay on their campus for next to no money. So there are ways to do this. Monasteries, another one. Very cheap in most cases to stay in monasteries, but be prepared to live like the monks, because there may not be electricity after a certain hour or at any hour in the monastery. But that's a different kind of experience that you'll talk about for years. But in my travels, I have met such wonderful people, many of them great stars, and many of them just the most down-to-earth, lovely people. Marvin Hamlish, who inaugurated the antique piano after it was refurbished by Terry Flynn's company, who was expert at that, here in Western Massachusetts, at the Colonial Theater, a wonderful place in Pittsfield, in Berkshire County in Western Massachusetts, which is right in the heart of the Berkshires, of Berkshire County, and is where our studio is, from which we broadcast both radio and TV. And he was here to be the performer who inaugurated the newly refurbished, huge, 7 feet long, 9 feet long, huge piano at the Colonial Theater, a Gilded Age theater that's quite magnificent. And so he was one of the wonderful people I met in my travels. And Keely Smith, who we recently lost in 2017 from the Louis Prima Keely Smith married combo act group, the couple on whom the Sonny and Cher team were based, inspired, molded from them by the same manager that managed both couples. So there are, many, Derek Warfield from the Wolftones and the Young Wolftones, marvelous people I've met in my travels. But there is a young lady who I met in December 2015. I belong to a professional organization of leaders in travel globally. It's called SCAL, like when you lift a glass and instead of saying cheers or sláinte in Irish, you'd say SCAL. And to all you SCALeagues who are tuned in, to fellow SCALeagues everywhere, my toast to you. And so I happened to be in Ireland at Christmas time in 2015. And we were visiting with people who have become great friends over the years, who I met in Ireland, who are also SCALeagues. And their names are Tom and Breda Reed. They own the Glasson Country Club and Golf Resort in Glasson, which is, if you take the map of Ireland and you draw a target over it, the bullseye of the Republic of Ireland will be Athlone. And if you just go a little bit north and a little bit west, about a 10-minute drive, you'll be in Glasson. And so we were visiting with them something like the 11th of December, 11th, 12th. And when we first got together, Tom Reed said, I hope this doesn't make you unhappy, but I've made reservations for us, for the four of us, my husband and Breda Reed and Tom, to go to Galway, to be in Galway for the Galway SCAL chapter's Christmas party. I said, well, how could I be upset about that? So off we went. And it was wonderful to meet SCALeagues from all over Ireland and the guests they had brought to this Christmas party. But we were only in Ireland about 2 days at that point, and I was still suffering from jet lag. And we were just finishing the main course at the Christmas party dinner, and I was ready to pass on dessert and just go to our suite and cave in. And I said to my husband, maybe we could just beg off and say goodnight to everybody because I'm really tired. And with that, the president of the Galway chapter comes up on the stage in this ballroom and says, we have a very special treat. We have somebody who is going to perform this evening for us. Her name is Amy Banks. She's 13 years old. She represented Ireland 2 months earlier in the Junior Eurovision Song Competition, where one person from each country of 17 countries competed for title of best whatever. And how could you get up and walk out on a 13-year-old girl who's about to sing for you? So we sat down. And she took my breath away. Amy's career has developed dramatically since then, and you'll be seeing much more of her. And we keep up with her every time we're in Ireland, and we'll be seeing her again soon. But I'd like to share with you Amy, just down the road a piece from where we are in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, in the beautiful Berkshire Mountains. So we're going to take a quick little break. We're going to come back, and we're going to start out giving you such a treat, meeting Amy Banks, one of the special people in my travels.
Stay with me. We'll be right back.
I am so happy that you are with us because I'm going to share with you a wee little one who's now 16 years old, who I met in Ireland, in Galway, a couple of years back when she was invited as a local young lady to perform at the SCAL, and you can check out skal.org so you know what I'm talking about. She was performing at the SCAL Christmas party, and she is just remarkable, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of her. And so let me introduce you to the very, very talented and poised and wonderful Amy Banks. That was wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I don't know, when Amy begins to sing, it just brings tears to my eyes and chills up my spine, and such a devoted, focused young lady. She's amazing. But you'll be seeing more of her, I promise you that. And I was so pleased to be able to bring her with her mother to come and visit us just 4 or 5 months after we met her at that Christmas party, and that the wonderful people at the Norman Rockwell Museum here in Western Massachusetts invited her to come and sing, and the people that were there were just blown away because, she just looks like Alice in Wonderland, and then she opens her mouth and Maria Callas comes out. It's just remarkable. So I thought we would take the time that we have left. We have gotten so many interesting questions in my email bag. And again, if you go to travelers411.com and you click on register, give yourself a username and password, and then you can scroll down in forums to Ask Stephanie. Or you can go right to Ask Stephanie, especially if you've already registered, so that you can not just read but write, from sabrams.com. At the top of the navigation bar, you'll see Ask Stephanie at sabrams.com. Click right over, and then you can leave me your question if you've registered, so you can write on the board there. And so we've had some people that have actually sent me some emails, and we've picked those out to see if maybe they're the kind of question you'd like to know the answer to as well. So, Mark, our producer, talk to me. What have you got?
Well, yes, Stephanie. We have one from Jennifer, who is watching on WCSN in Columbus, Ohio. And here's her question. Often, when I travel, I'm away for 3 weeks to 2 months. I always get a haircut before I leave. But during the trip, I need a haircut. Can you give me some advice on how not to get the haircut from hell?
You want to see the haircut from hell? Right. Look at your screen now. And do you know, I told the hairstylist, don't cut my bangs. That's the haircut where I think she had the imaginary cereal bowl on my head and cut around it. And that was such an important photo, the photo of me with Malachi McCourt, one of the brothers of Frank McCourt, who wrote Angela's Ashes, and it was also made into a film, Pulitzer Prize-winning memoir. And that picture was taken the day that the bust of Frank McCourt was unveiled at what used to be the Leamy National School in Limerick, where the boys went to school before the father moved the family. Well, actually, it was after the father moved the family back from Brooklyn. And they grew up in Limerick in abject poverty. And today, the Leamy National School is the Frank McCourt Museum. So you could actually go and visit it. When you do, if you go to County Limerick and you're in the downtown Limerick area, it's right off of Perry Street. And at the corner, there's a park. If you left the Leamy School, made a right turn to the corner, there's a park right there. And at that corner, there is a B&B called 1 Perry Street. And Perry with 1 R, by the way, P-E-R-Y. That's owned by a woman who has dedicated her adult life to hospitality venues. Lovely, very special woman. And she took a derelict building and turned it into a very snazzy, trendy, chic boutique hotel. And it's just maybe 75 feet, 100 feet down the street from the Leamy National School, which is now, of course, the Frank McCourt Museum. So I had a haircut because I ran into the same problem, Jennifer, that you ran into. And that is, you get a haircut, your hair looks great. Maybe you had a haircut 3 weeks ago. You're not ready for another haircut yet. And you go off traveling, and now you're away 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you're starting to look like a shaggy dog. And, there's one word you hate to hear in a hairdressing salon. That word is oops. So Listen, I'm not the one that's going to get crazy in the beauty shop, because the bottom line is it will grow, and my hair grows fast enough, probably like yours, if every 3 or 4 weeks you're getting a haircut. So, hat time. But it's really an important question. How do you assure a good haircut? Now, the place where I got the snippety doo-dah bangs, I had been there many times before. I've been there many times since, as recently as just about 8 weeks ago. I was there. And I told the owner of the shop, Michael O'Connell, at Bellissimo in the Galway shopping plaza, if any of you know the place. I told him about it, and I showed him a photo of it that I have in one of my blogs at sabrams.com/blog. And he said, "Why did you ever come back?" And I said, because I'd gotten many good haircuts here, and because I look around the shop and I see that the people who work here know what they're doing. So somebody messed up one day. We'll get over it. But, I mean, it's such an important photo. They had just unveiled that bust. And there I am with Malachi McCourt, who's just written his 9th book, how does it go? Death Need Not Be Fatal. He also had the best-selling books, A Monk Swimming, also hilarious. And so, I think of haircuts, and I think of that moment standing there knowing that I looked like, I don't know, that basketball Wilson in that Tom Hanks movie with a wig. So, to answer your question, what do I normally do to assure that when I'm traveling and I'm away and I realize I cannot go another minute without a haircut? Number one, I don't go into just stray dog shops normally. Now, and when I say stray dog shops, I mean a shop that is freestanding in a neighborhood by itself. They may have great people in there. So this is not a put down of people who have individual, independent beauty salons. There are many, and there are many wonderful ones. There's one in Boston that I haunt. There's one in Paris named Pascal with an E. A woman owns it, that a concierge sent me to. Fabulous. But number one, if you're in a really good hotel, they may have a salon. A salon in a really good hotel, 5-star hotel, maybe 4-star will do too. A salon in a really upscale department store. They cannot afford, the hotel nor the department store, to have some wild, raging woman come shrieking out of their beauty salon and creating a scene and creating bad will for the department store or for the hotel. So you are almost guaranteed to have really fine quality professionals working in a shop that's in a really fine hotel or an exceptionally fine department store. In London, Harvey Nicks, also known as Harvey Nichols, Harrods, those are great places to go. I mentioned Monaco earlier. In Monte Carlo, I generally would get my hair done at, they've changed the brand so many times, but it's the Grand. It's been the Lowe's Grand. It's been the Fairmont Grand. I don't know what it is now. But it's the Monte Carlo Grand. It's a very modern-looking hotel. It's right down on the waterfront. Their beauty shop, I've always gotten great haircuts in. But anytime you go to a place where if you aren't happy, what are you going to do about it? That's a little tougher for the traveler because you'd really have to know. Another thing you can do is spot somebody with a haircut that you really like, that demonstrates some real skill, and ask them, a local, not somebody that's traveling next to you, but, if you're in a restaurant, the waitress or the hostess or, somebody that works at the front desk and they've got a great haircut, ask them where they get their haircut. Because that's really, the best reference you're going to have of all. And it's a problem, but you can fix this one easy. And I'm so glad you asked it. Such an important question. I hope you'll come back next week, everybody. We'll see you then. Gotta fly now.
Come back next week, same time, same station.
So good to travel with you. This is Stephanie Abrams, Travel TV.